Welcome to the Intercut Podcast, the weekly show going over the movies, TV, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I'm your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me this week, as in every week, the Rotten Tomato that ruined your 100% fresh score, Arturo Zurita.
And I like doing it too. I'm that guy who comes into the theater with those extra tomatoes and just waits to throw them because I'm not. The tomatoes at the concession stand are too much. That's why theaters are dying. But yes, I am Art from the A to Z show. Glad to be with you, Zach. Glad we're making this a weekly thing.
Yeah, this is fun. It's nice to get to chat every week about the movies and stuff.
I mean, it's hot. Like, don't get me wrong, it is hot. For those of you who make videos, you know how hot it gets in a room when you got lights on, when you got... It's hot. That's all I got to say. You can't turn on an AC, too, because I don't have, like, a central cooling thing. I have, like, an air conditioner.
Yeah, that thing's on. With the sound. You can't do that. Yeah, I'm taking advantage of all the natural light I can because I don't want those hot bulbs on me for an hour. I may not survive in this heat.
I know. But I'm going to drop weight. I'm going to drop weight while doing the Intercut. The Intercut. The only show that allows you to drop some pounds while at it. But excited to be here.
Thanks for joining me, as you always do. In a little bit, we'll talk about the issues with Rotten Tomatoes, as well as some developments with Steven Spielberg's latest movie and the Babadook's triumphant emergence at Pride Week. But first, Art, I know what you're watching. I'm watching it too.
I know what you're watching.
Do you want to just say it together? Should we just...
Oh! Right. I don't know which one you're going to say first, but what I'm watching is It Comes at Night and...
Sports!
It's I mean, movies are cool.
Movies are very cool.
We love movies. I think movies they're always number one.
Yeah.
We're married to movies.
TV's up there too. Movies,
TV. Yeah, TVs are like the children.
Yeah.
Like you love them just as much, if not more.
Exactly.
But you got this best friend who hangs around with you sometimes, and your wife's telling you like, "Hey, stop messing around with that person," because sometimes they take your time up because
it's not the best influence.
It's not the best influence because, you know, your wife sometimes just needs 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Games, they ask for 2.5 hours. You know, they go to game 4, they go to game 5, they go to game 6. I'm hoping to go to game 7 because I want to hang out with my boys right now. Cavs versus Golden State Warriors, I believe, is what you've been watching too. Yes. I know you've been watching some other stuff, but
yes.
The trilogy.
The trilogy.
We're talking movies. This is the third year that they've been facing off each other. It's automatically become a rivalry between the three. And I'll admit I was a little scared, which made me feel dumb because what has sports, not even sports, what has politics? Forget those. The Oscars, upsets, teams coming out of nowhere to win.
We live in the era of last-minute winners right now.
If he comes back... I'm buying his jersey.
This
is what my brother and I always say.
I mean, if LeBron can somehow pull off this biggest comeback of all time, then you have to give him so much credit. I mean, it's just immensely watchable to see the way he's powered this team through, and you know, Golden State's incredibly watchable too. Like as much of these games have gone through one-sided moments, it's just incredible to watch the dynamicism from both ends and the dramatic narratives all around it with you know, the bringing in of Durant to this dynamic and for LeBron to be a bigger underdog than he's ever been. I mean, it's
how is that a thing? How is it become that the Golden State Warriors? Yes. How is it that the Golden State Warriors, which are like the Yankees when they had all the money in the world to drop on players, that the Golden State Warriors, in movie terms, is like that blockbuster that's part of that cinematic universe that you know is going to please as many people as possible, and you know is going to make their money. You know, it's going to be on top. And LeBron James has become that indie movie, that indie director that we all know makes good movies.
Right.
And we're just trying to see them, you know. It's like the Get Out that you're just, please make the 100 million, please cross it.
He's the fan favorite again. It's awesome. I don't know. So yeah, NBA is great. Anybody who's watching it knows that.
Yeah.
The NHL, which just ended its Stanley Cup playoffs last night, was awesome. Penguins versus PK Subban and the Predators. It didn't end the way I wanted it to, but there's always something dramatic about playoff hockey, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And there's nothing better than seeing people lift the Stanley Cup. It is, you know, the best trophy in sports. I also watched the recent U.S. men's soccer qualifiers. I'm a big soccer fan, and They're actually playing well again, so it's good to enjoy watching the U.S. national team for a change. So it's warm out, lots of good sports to watch, although hockey's leaving us and basketball will unfortunately leave us soon, which means we have to focus our attention on the movies like It Comes at Night.
You know, a lot of people are mad because it never showed up.
Stuckman has a whole video he put out this morning of
really?
Yeah, the problem with bad marketing and about
that is true. No, that is true. It is bad marketing, and I'm a person who I've been spending the week to just like listening to interviews and stuff like that, and I really like how the guy. It's a personal story.
Yeah, so this is a personal story from director Trey Edward Schultz, whose previous movie Krisha was a big indie hit. It's sort of like a blend of reality because it's about his aunt and it stars his aunt, but it is a drama. And a lot of people called it like a real life horror because it just derives so much tension out of these interpersonal family dynamics. It makes sense that he would graduate to a movie like this that is so horrific.
Mm-hmm. When I say a horror, it's not really a horror. It's interesting because I think of when Swiss Army Man came out, and the dudes, the Daniels, were like, we don't even like fart humor, we don't like any of that stuff, but the story that they wanted to tell, they told it in that type of wacky genre. Mm-hmm. He said the same thing. He doesn't like apocalyptic movies, but it was the genre that he thought of when he was envisioning his images and stuff like that. And he has said that it's a very personal story of when his biological father was on his deathbed, and he's talked about the themes in the movie, how it's all about fear. The door represents that literal doorway between what's on the outside, the unknown, and that it is fear. Mm-hmm. It's those nightmares that the kid gets when he's at night, the kid who represents himself. And I went to go see the movie with a couple of friends who aren't necessarily the biggest film geeks, and in the theater, for whatever reason, on that Thursday night, it was filled with 3 groups of girls' night outs. I do not know why.
Yeah, that's not very a girls' night out movie to me.
And the moment it ended,
for that matter.
Yeah, and the moment that it ends, because it ends on that specific shot, right? Everyone knew it was going to cut to black, and they all yelled out, "Oh no!" And it cuts to black, and they were so mad. They wanted their money back and stuff like that. And I'm just there going like, give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. What was he trying to say here? Because obviously it drew everyone because of that marketing. And hearing his interview, he says that he's very well aware that the marketing has a dog looking for something. That the first trailer definitely insinuates someone coming. That they overemphasize on scenes that are horrific in the trailer that are not even realistic. Mm-hmm. And he says, if it's going to get people in seats, I'm okay with 60% of the audience hating it if it finally gets to the 40% that it needs to. I'm okay with people disliking it at first because I've disliked movies before, and then later on I watch it again and I go, wow, it hit me because I really needed it at this point in time. So I think it's, once you get past the marketing and you see it for what it is, it's got some very interesting themes in it.
Yeah, I think this comes down to a question. You know, I'm someone who does not like when people just say bad marketing. To me that's a too simplistic
bad marketing.
You know, that's way it's way more interesting than that. You know, this is a tiny personal horror movie that had a budget of $5 million. It debuted at the Overlook Film Fest. This is A24 that doesn't necessarily put out these big I mean, people who've seen The Witch should know what they're getting in for in a movie like It Comes at Night. The Witch has a similar type of not
much happens, as people
It's not a very satisfying, viscerally ending. I thought it worked for the story, but it's not your conventional horror movie. There's a difference between what A24 puts out in a horror movie and what Blumhouse puts out in a horror movie. And this is not The Purge or Sinister or any of those types of movies. Yeah. So, you know, when you talk about bad marketing, the movie made $6 million its opening weekend. It was in 6th place.
So is it bad marketing? What's the job of marketing? Getting it out there. So you're right. No, you're right. I think it's the phrasing of what people say. I think they mean manipulative marketing.
Yes. But at the same way, like, I feel like it is on us to be discerning audiences. All marketing is manipulative, especially now, especially in 2017. We've seen it for big budget movies, and we've seen it more so now for art house movies.
Yeah.
This is the way that they're getting a lot of people to these art house movies. Is it tricking people into making it seem like a more conventional type of film? I think there's something really interesting here, and it kind of bothers me how the marketing is kind of taking away from a discussion of what's actually in this movie, which is a much more internally focused movie. We sort of touched on, I guess, light spoilers, but not to get too heavy into spoilers. Yeah. The idea here is much more about like what these people are bringing into the situation.
A leftovers type of thing. It's not so much how they got there, but what are they doing in that scenario?
And I heard someone compare this movie to The Road, which to me is a much better comparison than any of the monster movies that it sort of reminds people of, because it really is sort of an unglamorized look at what will happen to us when society breaks down, when the number one concern is how can I fend for my family and family first. What's going to happen? Can you actually, I think we a lot of times have this romantic vision of locking ourselves in our bunkers and protecting our loved ones, but it's sad and it's
more than that.
It's unsettling. And I think this movie really gets at just how uncomfortable and how devastating in a post-apocalyptic scenario would be. So if you're interested in the idea of society unraveling, I think this is the type of movie for you. If you're looking for, the next It Follows, it's probably not going to satisfy that itch.
Yeah. And he said that in one of the interviews, and where he had mentioned that he sees it sort of like The Thing. That was one of his biggest inspirations, one of his favorite movies, and where it wasn't so much about the thing, it was about what happened to the people.
Yeah.
And he had mentioned that he really realized he loves the 70s type of horror movies where it's not so much about the creature or the monster, but the evil inside people and what they do. And again, I can see why people went in there in a girl's night out, in a guy's night out, they're expecting a certain type of movie to get scared, and then they don't get that. At the same time, I like what you brought up, and where I'm not going to call the movie clickbait, but It Comes at Night still works with what he was saying. We just took it as literal. He meant it as metaphorical. And he's pretty much said it. He said people are still mad after watching the movie, but after you watch the movie, shouldn't you have gotten it?
Yeah.
That what is literally coming at night after every scene.
That was my surprise watching the Stuckman video, is how little he seemed to grasp that it was ultimately not about what's out there, but what's in the house. He was like, it's just a movie about some people in a house. Like, no, duh. That
so then he really got, so then there's a difference there. That's getting really upset and making a video before you even make anything, because I'm working on a video, but I'm willing to wait.
Yeah.
Not to bash Stuckman or anything. I'll take his spot right. I know I'm going to make, but it's that idea of, this is someone who created something, not just to like tick you off. This is someone who created something, and A24 gave him the ability to tell this very personal story. And I'd wait to find out what it actually meant. Which this is one of those movies I saw it. I agree with him. I came out of it a little disappointed.
Yeah.
Then I researched it. Then I understand what he was doing. Yo, do you know he changed aspect ratios in the movie? This is a whole other discussion.
Stuckman noticed that too.
When we start getting nerdy with that, and when we start seeing how when the aspect ratios start converging, one is nightmare, one is reality, and when nightmare becomes reality, like, I can't bash a movie that I didn't pick up on things on the first time around, because then that shows me that I got to take a little more time on this movie because there's something there. And there's some political aspects to it that I really love, because they're not political for the sake of being political in this environment. It was legit just stuff that he reflected upon in history with genocide books that he was reading.
Yeah.
And it just so happened to fit now. And I'm like, that's what we're talking about. Like you were saying, do you defend for your family and ignore everything else? What about the xenophobia of what's beyond the door?
I mean, look, there's a reason that they made Joel Edgerton's character a history teacher in the movie.
This is
fantastic. A guy who looks back. And look, I had some tweets on my personal Twitter, @Zshevich, talking about my reaction to It Comes at Night and the idea of everything needing a payoff. I do think that lack of payoff does kind of hurt the experience of watching the movie, but I don't think that should negate the experience of the movie itself, because there's some really interesting stuff to mill over. And the more I think about it, the more I'm enjoying it too. It is a movie that leaves you with a lot to think about. So that's something to, I think, really keep in mind before you go into It Comes at Night. But overall, you'd say you did like it, right?
Yeah, after I first saw it, the thing was, dude, I had a huge headache. I had very little sleep, and I was like watching. I was having nightmares. I was waking up, waking up to like the scene that you see in the trailer of that of the blood coming out. But yeah, it's one of those movies that I saw, and I'm like, okay, it looks very pretty. I'm trying to stay awake for it. I'm aware of everything that happened in it. Obviously, it ends. Everyone's complaining. I'm like, I want to complain with you guys, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. And as I go home, and as I always do, I love listening to the interviews that he does. I love seeing some behind-the-scenes stuff. I love seeing what the actors had to say and how they approached the scenes, how they were reflecting upon how this is the director and his father's relationship, the idea of fear, the symbolism of the painting, the door. And most, like you said, there are a bunch of movies where we don't get the ending we think we want, but that's because what we expect isn't necessarily what the movie was meant to be. Totally. And the movie has its ending. It just wasn't the ending we thought we wanted, but it was the ending that he wanted for his movie. And the one thing I will always say, my final point, is that I do not care how cryptic a movie is, how ambiguous a movie is, as long as the director knows exactly what he's doing. And I have seen movies that tick me off because I'm like, baloney. No, this is not open to interpretation because your interpretation doesn't fit in what we saw on screen. It contradicts itself. According to him, he knows what started this virus. He knows how they got there. He knows what happened to the other family. He knows everyone else who they interacted with. He knows what happens after that final frame. And he knows how his entire world ends. And if he knows it and he left us little clues in there, I'm completely okay with it.
Right. We move on to our first big segment of the day, Yay or Nay News, where we go over the latest happenings in the entertainment industry. And we start with the Black Panther trailer dropping. Online, movie fans are buzzing in reaction to the release of the first Black Panther trailer, giving us a glimpse into Ryan Coogler's epic vision of Wakanda, a land watched over by Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther superhero. Art, I know your trailer policy demands that you avoid these clips at all costs. So I'm just going to ask, are you yay or nay on the Black Panther movie in general at this point?
Boy, don't ask me redundant questions like that. Ryan Coogler? Chadwick Boseman? I'm sorry, who else got cast? Who has previously worked with my man 2 times? Has
Mr.
directed
Michael B. Jordan?
Heck yes, I'm all for this. I don't need to see a trailer. There are some movies that it's not just I don't want to get spoiled. It's legit. I'm already sold. Don't give me the advertisement when I'm walking into Best Buy because I already know what I'm going to buy. Chadwick Boseman was the best part in Civil War for me. He was the standout character. I went out, remember we were saying LeBron wins? I'm going to go buy his jersey.
Yeah.
Black Panther was so good, I went and bought his t-shirt because this is a character that I've always been saying. You know, one of my biggest thing about diversity, as a minority, myself, Hispanic, whatever, when I see diversity on screen, I don't want it to be token characters. I want it to be fantastically written characters. Wonder Woman took a long time to get here. That's fine with me because we got this rendition. We didn't get some crappy version of it. Black Panther's taken a long time to get here. I'll wait another, I'm not going to say 10, I'll wait another year because that's when it's coming out to get what I believe is going to be one of the best superhero movies of all time. I'm all in for this.
Yeah.
I love the fact that this is a character that, again, and this isn't just a black character. This is going to the roots of Africa, fictional Africa, Africa nonetheless. And again, I loved his character in Captain America: Civil War, and I love the fact that this is going to be a character like Wonder Woman, where people can't just say, "Who do we got? Black people. We got Shaft." No, you have a great character. I know some people are a little iffy with the fact that he's Black Panther and not Panther, I guess, but. As Logic would say, the greatest rapper of our generation, black and proud. I'm all for it, though.
I'm big yay on the Black Panther movie and all the new clips. I decided to do sort of what you have suggested at some point, but watch a little and cut it off. I wasn't really feeling watching the whole thing because it is, gets into some of that typical like over-explaining of details you don't necessarily need. But like you, I've just been all in from the start. I mean, Ryan Coogler hasn't made a movie I haven't liked yet.
Fantastic.
Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out, Forrest Whitaker, Sterling K. Brown, who was excellent on The People vs. O.J. Simpson. I mean, this is a stacked cast. Cast.
Let's not forget Gollum. That's the one frame I saw.
Yeah,
he's in there.
Andy Serkis.
And both of them, because they said it was a Lord of the Rings reunion.
Martin Freeman.
Yo, you just saying the cast out loud again is insane.
I mean, look, that when you have that much talent and you have I talked about this sort of when we talked about our Wonder Woman review. You know, there's just a certain novelty sometimes when you see things on screen. And the way that visiting Themyscira was a bit novel just because, like, oh shit, it's all these warrior ladies.
There was color in a DC movie.
Exactly. There's going to be novelty to a lot of this movie. That's going to be not just novelty for the sake of it, but really refreshing and coming from a new voice. So I'm very excited for more Black Panther news. Moving on to Steven Spielberg, production on his latest glitzy drama began last week in New York, fast-tracked after both Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep joined the project about the Washington Post's exposing of the Pentagon Papers. The movie, which was recently retitled to just The Papers, already has Hanks and Streep, filled out its cast this week with Alison Brie, Carrie Coon, David Cross, Pat Healy, Tracy Letts, Bob Odenkirk, Sarah Paulson, Jesse Plemons, Matthew Rhys, Michael Stolberg, Bradley Whitford, and Zach Woods. Art, 2 questions. Does this cast make you curious about the new Spielberg project, yeah or nay? And also, whose role are you most excited to see?
I mean, they're decent. Spielberg's made a couple of good movies. I can't remember what Tom Hanks has made. Meryl Streep is alright. Carrie Coon! What were we just talking about?
Yo, Carrie Coon's our girl.
Carrie Coon and Michael Stolberg. Every time he's in a movie, be it the smallest thing, be it if I don't like the entire movie, for whatever reason, he always stands out to me.
Yeah.
Like, that man always stands out to me.
That dude has an amazing small part in Arrival. Yes, he does. I hate to always go back to A Serious Man, but, like, why not always go back to A Serious Man? He's so good in that movie. For me, the dude who jumps out is Zach Woods.
Just to make sure that he's from
Silicon Valley?
He's the weird one, right?
Yes. I mean, I'm all for the expanding of Zach Woods' career because he's been in a couple other things. He was in Mascots. He was in Ghostbusters. He was in Other People as well. But if he's going to be in a Spielberg movie, that's a whole other level. Yeah,
I remember seeing him in The Office when he first came out, and he was just so weird. And then he took that weirdness and made it better in Silicon Valley. I'm not gonna lie, he was my favorite character in Ghostbusters. I thought what he did was funny. He was just like yelling because he was scared of what he was doing.
I didn't see them in Ghostbusters.
He's in a Spielberg.
Yeah, I mean he's a really capable actor. I feel like he would totally work in this world, especially just. I don't know. There's something about his look that I could see in terms of either
like a ghost.
Yeah, either in terms of a pasty reporter or a pasty government official would totally be fine.
He's a crack addict, but a crack addict in a Spielberg movie.
So high class.
Oh, I'm all for it. Yeah, that was obvious.
So while half of Hollywood just booked the new Spielberg movie, Jennifer Connelly, one of my favorites from Requiem for a Dream, is making the jump to TV. To co-star in TNT's upcoming Snowpiercer reboot. She's the second actor cast to join Excuse me, I'll take that again. She's the second actor to join the cast following Hamilton's Daveed Diggs, and her character is rumored to be a member of the train's upper class who becomes curious about the rest of the train. So, Art, yay or nay on Jennifer Connelly's casting in the Snowpiercer TV show?
I'm a little iffy there, only because I like Snowpiercer. I do think it'll work great as a series. It's just it's on TNT, and I can't think of any TNT. The only thing I watch on TNT is the NBA on TNT. That's it. And unless Charles Barkley is on this train as well, I'm not sure if I'm going to find it as entertaining.
So TNT has sort of been going under a little bit of a revamp. They started with redoing that New Zealand or Australian movie Animal Kingdom.
And I've been hearing good things.
Yeah, I have a friend who's really into that show. I've been meaning to catch up with it. And then recently they took on that Rashida Jones project, Claws, that stars Niecy Nash, which is like set in a nail salon that's doing some money laundering for a drug ring. Supposed to be really good.
Ideas.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to push that like USA going into most of their robot game.
They're dominant.
Become legitimate.
They're just rebuilding all their entire setup
from the ground up.
Snowpiercer is a story that I think definitely works as a miniseries. Again, if it was on Netflix, if it was on HBO, I'd be super hyped for it.
Yeah.
I think Jennifer Connelly's gorgeous.
Yes.
She's very underrated. She's drop dead gorgeous.
And she's great in Requiem for a Dream and A Beautiful Mind.
Oh, she's really good at Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, yeah.
But you said
Diggs.
From Hamilton. And
Daveed Diggs is also in this awesome project called Clipping, if you've ever seen their videos on YouTube.
That's what I'm talking about. There's this one song from Clipping that I listen to all the time. And it's fantastic. What I'm saying is...
Inside Out.
If he's rapping, then I'm definitely for it. But I just like that dude because he's mad talented. And
super talented dude. Also on the new season of Kimmy Schmidt, oddly, and is very funny on that. He's just popping up all over the place. I'm like you, like TNT seems like a weird fit for Snowpiercer, but like I want to reserve judgment until maybe I see it, especially because I like both these actors. So I'm yay on Jennifer Connelly getting involved, but still skeptical on the show. Moving on, Futurama fans awoke to the unfortunate news that the show's earliest and best seasons will soon be disappearing from Netflix. On July 1st, the classic episodes will disappear from the streaming service, along with other Fox TV shows that have disappeared recently, including The X-Files and House, Ally McBeal, Firefly, my personal bedtime favorite, Bob's Burgers. Are you yay or nay on Netflix's continued inability to hold on to other studios' properties?
Bob's Burgers is not on Netflix anymore?
It's gone. It's gone, man.
Hello, darkness. I never finished it. Dang. I feel like it's one of those things. My buddies and I, we have this like meme chat. Like this is all this is. It's the most garbage chat in the world. And every time they share a meme off of Instagram, if you don't watch it right away, that thing gets taken down. Because some of these memes get flagged right away. Netflix is becoming that. If you don't watch these shows right away, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, that sucks. I didn't get to see it. I think it's on Hulu, though. I got Hulu, so.
Yeah, I think so.
It should probably still be on Hulu. But, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. Netflix is banking more on their original stuff, which I'm okay for. Can't always have your cake and eat it, too. And in order to have all these incredible projects that they're funding, that you're going to have to let go of some rights that they just don't fit. They're not the Golden State Warriors. They can't have that stacked of a roster. So
there's not exactly a salary cap, but there is a budget.
Yeah, there is a budget that they got to do, and they got to be careful with those rights. They couldn't get Seinfeld, so I mean, it sucks. I mean, I'm nay on it, but what can you do about it? Yeah, I mean, like it's hard to really. I guess I gotta go nay, but like, what do you do? Netflix is no longer the only player in streaming. When they first came along, they had NBC shows and Fox shows and some CBS shows and shows from HBO and Showtime. Cartoon Network, it was crazy.
Now all these different platforms have their own streaming services. It sucks that we're going to be living in a reality where you probably are going to have to pay for between 5 to 10 or more services if you want to catch up with all these different shows, or you're picking and choosing. Like, I guess I'm just not watching the new seasons of Bob's Burgers unless I watch it live on Fox.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they'll find a way. I mean, Netflix is smart. They changed the game. They're changing the game. They will change the game.
But they have talked about how they are moving towards having more original programming. I think there was a quote that Reed Hastings, the CEO, said that they wanted 50% of their library to be original programming.
That's clearly what they're going for, yeah.
It's just, hopefully they will continue to be putting out good shows, because I'm a big fan of Netflix as a producer. It's just, I also was a fan of Netflix as an aggregator, and it's a shame that they're no longer that.
It stinks, but I mean, you have people like Hulu who do like add-ons, and Amazon does add-ons. Hulu, I think, is more above in the TV game. And I mean, think about it. You have things like Showtime, Starz, and The King, HBO, that those are already add-ons.
Yeah.
You can't just get that with something, you know. So I think with players like YouTube TV or whatever it is that they're calling their thing, I think Netflix is making the right choice. We may not see it now, but I think they're making the right choice in where they know they can't bring you in with a Bob's Burger, because even if they had the rights, they can't stop somebody else from getting it. So what is Netflix doing differently, right?
Yeah, and look, I don't think we're too far from a world where Netflix tries to purchase one of these like channels that's not doing as well. Like, what if Netflix just went and purchased the CW?
Could you know? Yeah. I mean, they have a good thing with the CW. Riverdale was 2 weeks. How did that happen?
They got that deal, yeah, where CW shows go up almost immediately.
That's insane. But that's cool. So, yeah, something like that, I can see them doing that where it's specifically for them. Other than that, though, I get why they're doing the Netflix thing. You want Netflix? Why would they rely on other shows? They're banking. They got like 3 new shows coming out every week.
Yeah.
You're surfing and you're like, when did this come out? What was this? And then some of them, it's not just that it's... We were talking about it. There's a lot of quantity, but within there's some legit quality. I was at the store today shopping for some gifts. They had a whole BoJack Horseman collection of those
Funko.
The Funko Pops. I was ready to buy some until I remember now I ain't gonna run. I only got one Funko Pop, and that's this Batman one here. But I was tempted to get one, and I think focusing on their stuff and seeing the splash they were making at cons, seeing who they're bringing in, I'd rather them focus on the Netflix original stuff, because if it was mediocre for the most part, then it'd be like, focus on something better. But they're doing a really good job, and if it means sacrificing Bob's Burgers, then
it's definitely giving me incentive to actually go ahead and get that Hulu Plus subscription that I've been putting off for a while now.
It's pretty worth it. It's not that bad.
Moving on, with Cars 3 set to hit theaters this weekend, Pixar is letting people get a glimpse of its other 2017 release, Coco. The film revealed a new trailer, and with it came the official news that this Mexican-inspired animated adventure will also feature an all-Latinx voice cast. Art, as our reigning Mexican, does the culturally appropriate voice cast for Coco make you more excited for the movie, yay or nay?
It's, as Joey Badass would say, it's for my people. I have to. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. I have to. I'm all for it. For me, it's if they're getting talented people, sure. If they're picking Francisco off from Home Depot to voice a character, then that's lame. But I would rather have, if they're Hispanic characters, have them have a Hispanic accent. I mean, the Book of Life kind of did that.
Yeah.
For the most part. With the characters that they had and the style that they had and the culture that they had in that movie. And I thought that was a pretty good movie. I hope Coco and Cars 3 start steering Pixar in the right direction again of making original projects. I think Inside Out started moving them this way again, because I know a lot of people have been disappointed in the fact that they don't hit as hard. I know there are still the Pixar fans who are like, it doesn't matter what they have, they're going to do it. But I feel Disney animation has surpassed them a bit with the stuff that they have been coming out, financially and critically. And Pixar's kind of been coasting there a bit. They're never terrible, unless you're Cars 2. But I think Cars 3, with this freaking dark and grimy stuff that they're going for, may be able to move it in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm very confused by this Cars 3 marketing. It does not make it seem like a kids movie or a comedy. Yeah,
this looks darker than Furious 7's ending. What's going on here? But with Coco, I hope it's a good movie. I didn't see the first trailer that came out because someone straight up said that it spoiled everything. So I'm like, that's why I don't watch trailers. But if it's good, it's good. You know, I'm in there hunting for those Easter eggs. So
definitely.
That's what I love about
Pixar. I'm a little concerned about potential similarities to the Book of Life, like you were mentioning. They are oddly similar for big animated movies, but you know, this is a Lee Unkrich project. The guy who did Toy Story 3, among other Pixar movies. So, you know, this is a big Pixar director, and his co-director is Adrian Molina, so you do have the actual Latino influence there. I mean, like we were talking about with Black Panther, it's a nice way to potentially inject life into these tired and true formulas by giving new voices a chance to come through. Pixar has been looking for some new life, and like you mentioned, and if they can start putting out different types of stories, maybe that will be where they find that energy again that makes them better than Disney Pixar.
That's what I think it's going to be, because I mean Disney's already there. They're pushing their princesses hard again, and the little girl demographic, they love that. Frozen, huge. But with Pixar, you know, they've given equality to bugs, they've given equality to toys, they've given equality to cars, robots. Now they're giving us Mexicans a chance.
Finally, we figured sometime after we got to Bugs.
Yeah. After Bugs, we're like, not yet. I want 3 Cars movies before we get those Mexicans on screen. But yeah, I mean, there's not that many. I'm always for. I don't care what it is. A toy, a bug, a robot.
Yeah.
If I can connect to the characters, that's what I care about more than them looking like me.
Yeah.
But to some people, they like that, and you know what? This is going to be a Pixar movie that's all about. I mean, it's Mexican, right?
Mexican inspired.
Okay, so so for people who want to see that and not like those Mexican, I don't know, you probably don't know this, but for our Mexican viewers, that Huevo cartoon, the biggest Mexican cartoon that has gone is a talking egg. And the entire cartoon is a pun on because you know huevos, right? In Spanish is like, you know what I'm talking about. That's what the entire cartoon.
Is this for kids?
Is this huge? Yes, it's a family thing. Mexicans, I don't know. That is our biggest cartoon, and that actually made some numbers here on the States. That has been our biggest cartoon. So
it'll be a nice opportunity, I guess.
Get in there, all right? We need you.
You go, Coco.
Yeah.
Are you the kind of weirdo that's always wanted to watch Step Brothers, but without all those pesky vulgarities? Well, Sony Pictures has the answer for you. As first reported by Yahoo Movies, Sony announced their new Clean Movies initiative. This is Sony making available the broadcast TV and airline versions of 24 different titles, including Big Daddy, Captain Phillips, Step Brothers, and Talladega Nights. In response to this news, Seth Rogen took to Twitter to say, "Holy shit, please don't do this to our movies. Thanks." Art, are you yay or nay on clean versions being available with purchases through digital platforms like iTunes of Sony movies?
So it's a 5-minute version of Step Brothers.
Or it's a version with where lots of mother fathers are shouted at each other.
Mother father. So the TNT version.
Yes, the TNT version. Mother flipping snakes on this.
Mother flipping yeah, whatever he says on the FX version. No, this is disgusting. No.
Nay. I mean, look,
there's so much I can say, but I'm just not, because you should know.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to try and go yay on this. I don't want to. But for the podcast, I will go yay on this. Because these versions exist. They put them on airplanes and on cable TV. Why not make them available to youth pastors or kindergarten teachers? I guess, because they need them.
You're telling me that if my church is having a youth party to talk about blended families, we can now screen Step Brothers?
Yes.
Sold! It's the dumbest thing. I don't care. I'm not watching Wolf of Wall Street, the clean version, at my church. If I'm watching Wolf of Wall Street, I'm watching Wolf of Wall Street. If I'm watching Step Brothers, you are not cutting the scene where he puts the ball sack on the drum kit. That's not happening. You can't make these movies clean.
Look, my only real concern with this is I don't want to accidentally purchase the wrong movie if I feel like renting Step Brothers. This isn't going to, let's be real, this is never going to affect me unless I accidentally click the wrong button, because I'm not going for them. Yeah, and no real movie fan is going to go for them either.
What confuses me is who's buying these?
Yeah, I'm a little curious about what the market even is. I understand the desire to have a family-friendly movie, but why do you want to watch Step Brothers then?
Thank you. If you want to watch Step Brothers, then censorship shouldn't be a concern. You know what? That makes no sense. Yeah, I want to listen to Kendrick Lamar, but I'm clean. Then you don't want to listen to Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah. We move on to our final movie news story of yay or nay. After the horror film The Babadook was briefly miscategorized on Netflix under the gay and lesbian category, The Babadook featured prominently at Pride celebrations over the weekend, adorned in rainbow flags, screaming "Yas, Babadook," and popping up in some RuPaul Drag Race memes. But really, this whole thing makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. USC professor Karen Thompson explains he lives in a basement. He is weird and flamboyant. He's living adjacently to a single mother in this kind of queer kinship structure. So, concerning the Babadook's newfound out and proud status, are you yes or yes?
Good. I thought that's what the Babadook was about. I mean,
it seems obvious.
I saw it at a Pride festival, so I just figured that was part of the lineup.
Everybody knows about it, but they don't want to address it in the family.
LGBTQ B. I thought that's what the B was for in the LGBT.
I saw that sign.
Gay Babadook.
Lesbian.
Oh, did someone already make that?
Babadook transsexual.
They're going to replace all the letters with...
If you were a fan of the Babadook, you have to search Twitter for these pictures and memes. They are amazing. They've been signs all over the place during Pride. It's been hysterical to see them pop up on Facebook and stuff. This actually uncovered something that I wasn't as knowledgeable about, but I was reading this thing from Karen Thompson, and it mentions that there's like a long history of gay culture appropriating these villains from horror movies like Frankenstein and such. So I don't know. It's a cool, fun spin on a movie that I actually love a lot. If it gives me a reason to talk about the Babadook with more people, I'm totally for this.
Have you seen Raw? You saw Raw.
I have seen Raw.
Yeah, we talked about it a bit.
Yeah.
In Raw, when I got out of the screening, I mentioned this in a video that I did for it. As you know, in her interviews itself, she says it's a coming-of-age story about your parents and yada yada, and she chose cannibalism. Some people saw it as this feminist revenge tale because they eat men.
Mm-hmm.
People will always find something in movies. And what's funny is that even though this was a joke, and it's funny, and I had no idea about this, but I'm going to go search up those memes. There is bound to have been someone who said, well, that's what it was all about. There are always people who will go into a movie and say, that's what it was about. Someone went into It Comes at Night and said, well, that was what it was about. The raves are at night. There's always people who come in with their own agendas and believe that that's what it is. So
art reflects us. We see ourselves in art.
We are the Babadook.
Yes.
That's funny.
All right, so let's get into our topic of the week. And this week it is Rotten Tomatoes, because two new releases this past weekend highlighted what seems to be an increasing divide between critics and audiences on the popular review aggregating site. The new Tom Cruise movie, The Mummy reboot, was trashed by critics, receiving only 16% positive scores on the site, while audiences on Rotten Tomatoes gave the movie a more positive, though not extremely positive, 45%. Meanwhile, the new A24 movie that we just discussed, It Comes at Night, was certified fresh with an 86% positive score from critics, but it was dumped by audiences, probably for many of the reasons we mentioned earlier, who gave it a 43, an even lower rating than The Mummy. The Mummy! Art. This follows a trend of sorts with disgruntled DC fans that leapt to conspiracy theories regarding the website's bad scores of some of its superhero movies, as well as critically lauded films like Moonlight or La La Land that had nearly universal praise from critics, but both of which only have 80% positive on Rotten Tomatoes. So Rotten Tomatoes claims to be a, quote, trusted measurement for movie and TV programming quality. I took that off the website. Do you trust Rotten Tomatoes, Art? Why or why not?
I don't care for Rotten Tomatoes. You want to know whose opinion I care about the most? Mine.
Yeah.
Go watch the movie for yourself. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter if someone else does. If someone else hates a movie and you like it, screw them. It's your opinion. I believe this is a discussion we always have. And this goes to music. This goes to books. This goes to everything that we feel like we need to be in the consensus of a certain group.
Yeah.
And I think it's split in where in the film community we care more about the critic scores for the most part. I would say mostly because some of us, like your boy Zach over here, deal with it. Like they are actually the ones who contribute to it. Sometimes. And sometimes you have the influence of your peers.
Yeah.
And if they're not your peers, then you care more about what the consensus is to general audiences. And if general audiences don't like it and you do, are they going to call me pretentious? And if the critics like it and you don't, are they going to call you a dumb movie fan and tell you to just go watch Marvel movies? And it becomes this whole thing of clicks. And it really is a click because why Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah.
Why not Metacritic?
Why not all these other ones? It's an interesting thing. Like you mentioned, it's this very partisan kind of way that we approach it. It's very much like the way we approach politics now, in that you're either on the side of the critics or you're on the side of the audiences, and somehow critics can't be fans and audiences can't be critical, when really we should all be all those things. I mean, what the problem is to me in a lot of ways is that people are doing a bad job of identifying what these numbers actually mean. This is something that you and I talk about a lot.
We've talked about this before because you actually informed me. I went to class and I was like, brought you an apple and everything. I was like, I did not know that. But.
Right, because so you look at Rotten Tomatoes. What is it? It's a collection of all these critics who exist. Now, there's big critics like the ones who work at Variety or Hollywood Reporter or newspapers that you've actually heard of, and then there's Scott's movie blog that just happens to have enough followers that it got into Rotten Tomatoes while their threshold was kind of low. I mean, you look at the ratings for, I just have La La Land open, there are 344 reviews that they've tabulated to get that 93% score. Now, what they're doing is not calculating that if you average all these different reviewers' scores, they would all give it a 93. They're just saying 93% of the people who wrote a review came out in the positive for it.
I remember you telling me that because I thought I'm like 83% is the average, and then you told me it's like no, literally 9 out of 10 critics can give it a 6 out of 10, and it will get a 90%.
Yeah, what it actually does is establish what the movie, whether or not a movie is liked a lot, not how much it is loved. Yes. And that's a sort of weird barometer to go by. You know, you could have a movie like Chef, for example. I'm just throwing a movie out that got a lot of great ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, but it wasn't necessarily loved by a lot of people. I'd say that's like most people's definition of like a 3 out of 5. Yet it has an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes because a lot of 3 out of 5 reviews are still positive.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. Why do it that way? I don't know, but the biggest thing isn't why it does it, because they can do whatever they want. It's why has Rotten Tomatoes gone so big? Because we focus on it, because we made it big. If it wasn't that and the critics' ratings were pushed over to IMDb, then we would be complaining about IMDb. If we actually cared about Metacritic, then we would be complaining about Metacritic. If there was a new thing that was doing it, we would be complaining about that. We overly focus on Rotten Tomatoes. That's it. We're the ones who made it big. The ones complaining about it and the ones praising it. The ones going to it as a source of, this is what's going to decide if I like the movie or not.
And that's because it is a useful resource. It is useful to see, this is what a lot of people are thinking. It's just that it doesn't necessarily tell you what the actual quality of the movie is, which is a shame.
Specifically, too, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I also wanted to address, too, is there's this idea that critics and audiences are different. But what people sort of fail to realize is critics are people who see movies professionally, semi-professionally, see lots and lots and lots of movies. Yeah. And a lot of time, the general audience is only seeing, one movie a month, if that much, maybe 6 movies a year. And if you're seeing 2-3 movies a week versus 2-3-4 movies a year, your expectations are going to be in completely different places. So, there's this idea that critics and audiences can't sort of agree on what defines a good movie, and I think really it's just we are not in a good place to sort of communicate between people who have different priorities when it comes to movie watching. I've heard people ask me all the time, like, well, should I go see that? And I never know what to say, because I would rather recommend you watch something that's on Netflix, but I don't know what your movie watching habits are. You know?
Yeah, I don't know what you like. It's like, how am I supposed to know if you should go watch this or not? I don't know how much time you got. I don't even know if you got the money to go to a movie theater. Why are you asking me these questions? It's like, you have to find out by yourself, and I think that's what makes us, the movie fans, not that we're better than an average moviegoer, but like you said, we watch movies differently. Well, one of the biggest complaints that I always hear is, why can't you just watch a movie and turn your brain off? Why can't you turn your brain on? Like, There's just a different way to watch it.
And I know a critic who he decided to give the movie Pixels a positive review. Fine.
It's the best movie of 2015, yeah.
Whatever. But his sort of argument was, it was fun enough and it was worth your time. To which I sort of had to talk to him about, like, well, maybe your definition of what's worth your time is different from my definition of what's worth my time. You know, and it's hard to, like, you know, I think a lot of times we, both as critics and as audiences, don't do a good job of necessarily establishing what we mean by you have to see this, or this is good enough, or I know I personally am just trying to talk about the merits of a thing and the ways it made me feel, because I know if it made me feel a certain way, if people are looking for those feelings, maybe that will try and maybe that will entice them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the best way to put it. Like, to me, I always, usually when a stranger asks me for a recommendation, not like a stranger, I don't just walk up the street, but like when somebody asks me for a recommendation, I don't really know their preferences. I'm just like, well, you know, it's this and that. If you're looking for something that deals with this, watch that movie. You know, I don't necessarily tell them the synopsis. I do what you do.
Yeah.
I give them the emotions. I'll be like, hey, this character, think of it like hanging out with this person who we know. That's what the movie's going to be like. It's that type of humor. It's this type of drama. Remember when we saw this together? It's kind of like that. But when I do know people and they ask me, I tell them, I'm like, I know what you're going to like, because I know you like this movie. It's going to be like this. Or you don't like this, you know? So
why do you think we then turn so often to Rotten Tomatoes? I mean, we are people who don't like it and we use it. Mm-hmm. Studios don't like it and they advertise their Rotten Tomato scores.
That's what's pushed it so much. Is I still remember the first time that I saw it pop up was for the movie way back when Your Next came out, and that was the first time that literally the trailer, and the poster had it, and it said certified fresh. Like, they had the little emblem, and that was part of their advertisement. To me, I'm like, it's officially a big thing now. Like, if movies start using it, then it is official, and we see it all the time now. Like, I thought that was embarrassing. I'm like, really?
Get Out used it a lot because they were at 100% for a while, I think.
And that means that they're aware of what the audience looks to, and that's why they're going to push it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing is, you know, I don't understand the audience complaints about it, because right next to that tomato meter, they put the audience score too.
It's right there, yeah. But so people focus on what they want to focus on, and if people want to get mad, they're going to get mad.
Yeah, it's some conspiracy theory against WB movies, even though WB partly owns Rotten Tomatoes.
I love that, yeah. It's that idea, it's still, regardless of what the score is, if it's positive or negative, people will cite it when it's useful for them, and people will ignore it when it's not. When you like a movie and it won an Oscar, then you can put it up. But when someone's arguing for a movie they like and they bring up well, it's an Oscar, so what? Oscars don't matter.
It just becomes this very easy device. You know, you put a number on it and you quantify the movie rather than the descriptors or stuff. It's so
I know
quick.
I think you and I both are in the same route. We don't really give it a 3 out of 10 or whatever.
We try not to, at least.
Yeah, we try not to, but Letterboxd, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I love what you said earlier, and where I like looking at the technicals as well. But movies are meant to make you feel something. They're meant to make you laugh. They're meant to make you cry. They're meant to make you think. And I like describing a movie. I don't care if you liked it or if you didn't. I care why you liked it or why you didn't. And I've always said that I believe every movie should be watched. My personal opinion is just where. Is it worth the theater? Is it worth at home? Is it worth not using it, getting the movie and just watching it in the background just as you fall asleep? But people work on movies, and I believe every movie needs to be watched. It just depends where you watch it.
Yeah.
And how you watch it.
So I'm curious, Art, we both have these frustrations with Rotten Tomatoes, but what would you like to see as a solution? Do you think there is a solution? Is it on the website? Is it on us to visit the website differently?
My biggest thing, and I know it's not going to happen, but this is the only thing. You're right. Visit the website differently, because I visit it all the time. It does kind of bother me. Sometimes I see something, and what I say with trailers, you see such a negative score, and then you go watch the movie, and you're like, oh, I kind of like that. But now I'm looking at it from that. Oh, I kind of like that. I'm watching the movie going, but why was it bad? I go into the movie blank without these preconceived notions, because I remember going into movies that have really high ratings, and I'm just going, well, I'm not impressed yet. It hasn't hit that 98 level. It hasn't hit that 95 level. So, yeah, the way that we view these numbers we have to view them a bit differently. But to me, I think the biggest thing that the website itself can do is stop going off of this algorithm of likes. I think if they switch the Metacritic route, then it would be a bit more honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Metacritic philosophy, where they incorporate the actual ratings into their aggregation, seems to be a lot better. It seems to give a lot truer idea of the actual quality.
Just switch it. No one's gonna know.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be a little bit of transparency in terms of maybe the range of opinions. I'd love to see if there was a way that they could almost gauge something other than percentage that like it. Maybe if it's a percentage of that like it with a indication of how wide the reactions are.
How much we trust them.
Yeah, and also like just gotta get. I feel like you gotta get rid of some critics, or at least have some kind of. You gotta have some kind of classifications for these critics, because
I agree.
I think it's a little bit strange that critics that are on homemade blogs and critics that actually work for gaming websites and don't really do movie reviews are on the same place as the New York or New Yorker reviewers that are doing like super pretentious intellectual reviews, and like New York Times reviewers like A.O. Scott and Wesley Morris that are probably some of the most intellectual reviewers in criticism right now.
And they're all in one.
Yeah, there's no indication whether who's the difference from one another. I mean, they have that like top critics button thing, but little secret, that doesn't really mean much. I've been a top critic once. It's not really gonna be a big indication.
That's if you trust me. I was a top critic.
Yeah,
that's how I know what's going on.
You don't want to trust them. I was one of them. It's just a little green button because I wrote for the right magazine. It was cool, but it doesn't necessarily mean that my opinion should be more valuable than others. I'd love
Multiplex, a top critic Rotten Tomatoes reviewer.
Thank you.
Certified fresh.
I have business cards that say that. I would love to see Rotten Tomatoes give you some sort of indication that like maybe highbrow critics, pretentious critics thought this, and the gaming critics, blogger critics thought this, and YouTubers thought this. Like
I see what you're saying.
It would help us self-select a little bit more too, because I know I trust certain communities more than others.
And that's what it is. Don't go to Rotten Tomatoes.
If you don't trust it.
Go to the people who you trust.
Yes.
I think it's just as simple as that. If you like The New Yorker, then why are you going to Rotten Tomatoes? Just go to them.
Mm-hmm.
If you like a certain YouTube reviewer, doesn't matter what their qualifications are. The only qualification they need is that they have a ratio of you agreeing with what they like. Then go to them.
And that's why I never get when people are mad at a critic for not liking a movie or something. We don't have to agree. And if you don't agree with me a lot, maybe I'm not your critic.
Exactly. There's a writer for The New Yorker. This isn't to bash The New Yorker, but every time this guy writes something, I know I agree. I'm like, thank you. That is more beneficial than someone who I agree with. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not just it's not just the simple, oh, this movie was garbage, oh, this movie was good. I read The New Yorker, and I see how they describe a movie, and they're bashing it, and I'm just going, this is fantastic. Or they're hyping it up, and I'm like, nah, this ain't doing it for me. And you just have to go to the people who you trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no bad reviewers. There's just okay. There's some people who are garbage. There's some people who, if they don't know how to explain themselves, then I do believe they're bad reviewers.
Yeah.
But just because they don't agree with you doesn't mean that they're bad. Go find the person you agree with, and that's the person you go to.
Absolutely. We move on to our final segment of the day. It's the new to see, where we look at the movies new in theaters and give you our recommendations for the weekend, starting off with the box office, where Wonder Woman spent a second week atop, only dropping 45-ish% from its first week score. That's huge. It passed $200 million at the domestic box office already. It's making a lot of money. Good for that movie. I mean, there's been cries for a female-led superhero for a while, and it's proving that it has merit at the box office.
That's good. That's insane. I remember reading about that, like how low it was, and that's because in music, that's something that they look at. People bashed Batman v Superman for that. That was it 60s, 70s.
Yeah,
I think it was 80.
The first to second week drop off is traditionally a very big indicator of word of mouth, because then people are talking about it or trying to go see it with their friends. I think you're talking the Batman Superman drop you're talking about was somewhere between 70 and 80% in its first week, which is bad.
And that shows
somebody correct us in the comments below, though. I feel like I got that number wrong.
But like you said, it has to do with fans and word of mouth. Are they watching it again? Is that word of mouth allowing people to come back? And I forgot, I think this was from music. But they were talking about the album sales from the first week to the second week. And that second week that no one's paying attention to because it's all about the first. But that second week, that's where the profit's at. That second week is what's going to determine sequel. It's that second week that's going to tell you people like this. So
I'll get to this in a little bit, but in sixth place at this weekend's box office was It Comes at Night. That movie made $6 million. Its reported budget is $5 million. That goes exactly like to what you're saying. That dope. First week recouped the budget, but if it has strong word of mouth and it can retain a high number, then that's all profit pretty much.
We'll get the sequel. It came at night again.
It still comes at night.
It's just every day it comes at twilight.
Oh, please, I don't want that crossover. In second place, The Mummy made $32 million, which is only a fraction of the reported $125 million budget. However, the movie also had Tom Cruise's single largest grossing day in China ever. So depending on how you look at it, it was actually a pretty successful release in the foreign box office. Yeah. So I'm not so sure on this one. I mean, it seems like they're going to go ahead with this rumored monster universe.
Yeah. That's got to be a topic for a future day. But cinematic universes. It's interesting.
Captain Underpants, Pirates 5, Guardians 2 rounded out the top 5. Did you see Captain Underpants yet?
Yep. Finally saw it the other day. Went to the drive-in, like I said in the last podcast. It was what I expected it to be. I remember we were talking about how a series of unfortunate events, not that I disliked it, but I was a huge fan of it as a child. Last week I was reading them. But when I saw the Netflix series, like, I couldn't complain because it was exactly what I wanted it to be. Or it was exactly what the adaptation was supposed to be, but it worked better as a book for me.
Yeah, you liked it as a book?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Like I say, Harley Quinn is a cartoon character. I can't see her as a live animation thing. Captain Underpants was pretty good. I've just grown up. But it still had me laughing at some points, and there were some funny things, but it's decent. It was nice. Pretty good.
And as I mentioned, sixth place was It Comes at Night, the A24 horror release. Its $6 million was not as good as The Witch's $8 million opening, but that is still a solid horror debut.
That's because they weren't sponsored by the Satanic Church. You got to get on that.
Right. That's a big co-sponsorship deal. You need that co-sign.
That's $2 million right there.
Satanists unite, I guess. I don't know.
They pay.
The new in theaters this weekend, as we mentioned a bit earlier, Cars 3, Lightning McQueen sits to prove he's still the best race car. Aren't you seeing Cars 3?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to do those Easter eggs, man. That's my bread and butter.
Yeah. Look out for that video. Rough Night from Lucia Aniello, the Broad City and time-traveling Bong writer-director, is making her feature directorial debut with this Scarlett Johansson, Zoe Kravitz, Kate McKinnon, Jillian Bell, and Alana Glazer movie.
Yeah. Looks interesting.
I'm down for it.
I think the first season or two of Broad City, because I think they're in the third season, right? So I'd say the first season.
Yeah, the fourth season trailer just happened.
Okay, yeah. So I liked the first season of Broad City. Haven't really seen the other ones, but the clips that I see, it's just not my sense of humor.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm not going to bash it. I think they know their audience now. I'm going to call it the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 effect. They have that novelty at the beginning, and then they know what people like, and then just put out
double down on it
and continue And I think that they've gone to the point where they just repeat the same jokes now. Of women can make the same jokes that men do in their Step Brothers unedited versions, and you know what? People like that. That's cool. I'm hoping that this movie. I'm all for someone.
Yeah.
I like this. Hey, Peele moved on to movies. Mm-hmm. This is another writer who's moving on. I'm all for it. I thought the preview was pretty funny, so we'll see.
Yeah, same. I thought the preview was pretty funny. I feel like comedies like this can be pretty hit or miss, but they're fun Sunday watches, if not in theaters on cable. The main thing I'm excited to see is whether or not Scarlett Johansson is good in this genre. I know she's been like good in some Woody Allen stuff, and
she's dabbled.
Yes, done some SNL stuff, but not necessarily in this broad of a form. I'm curious about that because I like this cast around her too.
I think help.
Kate McKinnon, Jillian Bell, Alana Glazer, all very funny and probably have a career as comedic sidekicks in movies for many years. Elsewhere in theaters, All Eyes on Me from Next Day Air director Benny Bloom with Demetrius Shipp Jr. as Tupac Shakur.
Nah, that's Tupac. Tupac came back for this movie. they filmed it in Cuba.
He came back from Cuba out of hiding.
I think this would be cringy.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, in the same mold as the Notorious B.I.G. movie that was out a few years ago. That was not so stellar.
It's not. Like, it wasn't. Is it connected to Straight Outta Compton? Because I heard they were going to try to do that.
Only that I think it shares some producers.
Okay, because I know they were going to try to... It might. I think Suge Knight from Straight Outta Compton is in this one.
Oh, well, yeah, there's some overlap in the worlds.
So again, cinematic universe. There's half of them are still alive. What are we doing in a cinematic universe?
I don't know, man.
Are you ready for that cinematic universe of World War II? We just combine everything. Combine Valkyrie.
The Hitler cinematic universe. Are you excited?
The Hitler cinematic universe. Oh.
To all your favorite Nazis in their own movies.
Straight out of concentration. I'm not. No, that's bad. I have been seeing this on the radio so many times. It comes up. Sometimes you got to enter their world in order to lead them out. Tupac, you entered the world, didn't leave. Stop. I hope it does well. He sounds a lot like Tupac.
Yeah,
he looks a lot like Tupac.
I mean, I thought they got the casting of the Notorious movie down too. It's just that the movie itself wasn't so good, and they always seem to get the casting okay with these. I think they tend to. I always hear like, oh, we're waiting to get the right person. They're trying to find the right person. Oh, it's not the right match, and then they find them, and the script is shit. So the movie is shit.
I don't know what you're talking about. The writing's fantastic. Not as good as the casting, but maybe All Eyes on Me will surprise us and it'll be a bit better.
The other releases this weekend, 47 Meters Down, Mandy Moore trapped underwater by sharks, hoping to be this year's The Shallows.
Yeah, let's go.
Always good time for a good shark movie at the beginning of summer.
Good time for a Mandy Moore movie.
I mean, I think there should be a shark movie every single year. I don't care if they're not all good, as long as some of them are good.
Yeah.
An indie release this weekend, The Book of Henry. This is from Jurassic World director Colin Trevorrow. Stars Jacob Tremblay, Lee Pace, Naomi Watts. I've heard not amazing things about this one. Have you seen anything?
Well, I don't listen to Rotten Tomatoes. No, but I like when directors go from something huge and then to something small.
I do too.
That being said, I've never seen it go well.
Right?
It's Can you think? I've never seen it go well. I still remember after Avengers when he made
the Shakespeare movie.
The Shakespeare movie, and I was just like, Much Ado About Nothing, and I was like, okay,
what's up, Whedon? What you doing? What's this?
A Ghost Story wasn't bad because I've seen it.
Right.
After he did Pete's Dragon.
Well, but he's also a much more artistic director anyway, Lowry.
Yeah, so it's always personal stories. That's what it is. They're always personal stories, and many times they do it with friends. Much Ado About Nothing is literally them just chilling in a house.
Yeah.
A Ghost Story, I remember he was saying in the Q&A that they practically worked for free, and they had people who did visual effects from Pete's Dragon help him out. Like, it was such a personal project.
Yeah.
He's doing a Terrence Malick. He is releasing a personal home video, and some people are gonna like it. Some people are gonna hate A Ghost Story. I'm hoping this one does a bit better. I hope it does well because I like Jacob Tremblay.
Yeah. And I like Lee Pace and Naomi Watts a lot, so
they're both really cool. So
yeah, other indie releases are Maudie with Ethan Hawke and Sally Hawkins, as well as I, Daniel Blake, the 2016 Palme d'Or winner, finally getting its U.S. release. This one was directed by Ken Loach, who also did The Wind That Shakes the Barley, and it stars Dave Johns as Daniel and Haley Squires as Kate. Art, I saw this one back at the 2016 Philadelphia Film Festival almost a year ago.
You're so cool.
But it's really good. It's a really emotional movie. It's about what happens to this guy after he's unable to go back to work because of some health issues, and talks a lot about the England healthcare services and the faults in that system, and just the sort of lack of working class empathy that's systemic in some. Yeah, well, it's takes place in England.
Is it in a different language?
No.
Okay. So
unless you have trouble understanding the accents. But it's in English, and I thought it was a really emotional movie. I maybe a little bit over long, but if you are in the mood for just like a story about people in tough circumstances working hard to overcome it, something that'll touch your heart, I absolutely recommend this one. In fact, it's my weekend recommendation.
Perfect. Yeah, this was one of those that was on my list, along with The Salesman. Along with the Tony Erdmann. Out of those three, how would you rank them, just off the top of your head?
Tony Erdmann, I, Daniel Blake, The Salesman. I've seen all three.
Why you gotta do that to me? The Salesman's the one I'm hyped for the most, but yeah, and all of those are long.
Yeah.
Like they're long. Like Tony
Erdmann's like 3 hours.
3 hours, right?
A comedy.
So.
A German comedy.
Yeah, I want to check all these out.
Really great.
Finally coming out, you know.
Art, I've already given my weekend recommendation. What is yours?
There's a really nice trilogy going on, and if you guys haven't seen the first two, that's okay, because this trilogy doesn't. You can just start off the third one, all right? And then it's the Cavs versus the Golden State Warriors. Hopefully,
they are a little more than halfway through, but
hopefully when you're watching this, the movie ain't done already,
right?
And it's spoiled for you. But if it continues, which
this could all be over by the time this podcast is posted. It could all be over by the time
you're watching this, and this could be completely pointless. But my week
probably will all be over by the time.
Yeah, probably. I hope it's not. Don't do that to me. If it's not, go watch that. There's plenty of movies, and I have recommendations for next week. But for right now, I'm going with the sports. I'm going with the sports story. I'm going with the underdog.
And also, It Comes at Night is still in theaters, which we both enjoyed, even though it's not for everybody.
Watch the interviews for it before you go in there and realize what it is and not your expectations.
Yeah. That is all for this week's show, though. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter @ZShevich, or on Instagram, also @ZShevich. You can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/multiplex show, where I just posted a new video explaining why I stopped posting on Multiplex a few months back and why I'm going to be posting on there again. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me on Rotten Tomatoes. You can find me at the A to Z Show on the Facebook, on the Twitter, on the Instagram, on YouTube. I always say I have a bunch of ideas coming out, and I do. They're all just drafts. They're coming out. They're going to be coming out. I do want to get on that Twitter game. You're on top of it. Like, you tweet your thoughts all the time. I have the thoughts, and I keep them to myself.
Yeah.
In fear of, like, I'm going to say something dumb, but you got to play that Twitter game. The Twitter game's all about just getting your thoughts out there and whatever.
Those Insta reactions, 140 characters. It's tough.
140 characters at a time. But
I've been threading tweets, though. This makes it easier.
Yeah, you can find me on those things. I'm not sure if we had this, but one of the things that we're building up to is we do want to get it on a segment on the show. So definitely leave us any comments.
Yeah, please.
Leave us any feedback and leave us any questions. We're building up to a segment that we want to do for that, be it on this show or on something else. I don't want to say the name yet because we're still working on a name, but we do want to get you guys involved as much as possible, get your guys' input on things and your guys' suggestions and questions. So
this show will be a lot more fun with all of you involved. So please, if it's a movie news question, if it's a question about new TV or new movies, it doesn't have to be specific at all. It can be much more general than that. Throw it in the comments below.
Anything you guys want to tell us, just let us know.
What are our morning beauty routines? Just let us know in the comments below. We'll make videos about it in the future. Sure. That is it for this week's episode. You can listen to every episode of the Intercut Podcast on iTunes or SoundCloud, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find every new episode here on Tuesdays at noon Eastern. Also, like our Facebook and Twitter pages @IntercutPod for updates throughout the week. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, Howard Hawks said a good movie is something with 3 great scenes and no bad ones, but he never said anything about great movies.
Hey! And we'll see you guys later.